Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Ed Madison Podcast Project number 27, I believe it is. And with me, I have a very special guest. He may downplay that, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I have Jason Shadrick here, and he's a gentleman that's from the Cedar Rapids area, I'll say.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And he actually works for a magazine called Premier Guitar.
And website. We have a website too.
And website. Link below. You want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jason.
Yep. And I'll open the scotch.
Yeah, please. Live in Cedar Rapids. Our offices are in Marion. Originally from Davenport, so I'm like Iowa all the way.
Native.
You know? Yeah, native, exactly.
I am not. That's okay.
You're close though. You're border.
In all fairness, I actually like Iowa much better. Sorry, Illinois friends.
Yeah. Those are huge ice cubes.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you. Keep
Oh
going.
no, that's fine. So yeah, I guess my official title is associate editor, but kind of the thing is at places like that in media companies, you got to do. Nobody in the whole company does just like one thing, you know. So write lessons, edit lessons, write features, write reviews, handle all the in and out gear shipping, you know, help decide what reviews happen, help decide what features happen. You know, for a while I was doing rig rundown videos. That got all moved to Nashville, so I don't do those anymore. And then, you know, do the NAMM shuffle, I guess, a couple times a year.
The NAMM shuffle. I like
the
that.
NAMM shuffle,
Yeah.
which is exactly as exhausting as you could probably think. Have you ever been to NAMM?
I have not, but I'd love to.
You should go. You should totally go.
I would love to.
I would recommend Nashville first because it's in Nashville. You're like right downtown Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super overwhelming, depending on how you are with crowds of people. Mm-hmm. And plus, considering we're in Iowa, it's a little easier. It's drivable. You could drive down in there if you wanted to.
How many hours is it from here?
Like 8 or 9.
Okay.
It's a day's drive. You go down, and then since you're in Nashville, you can go out and see stuff like in Nashville, because the one in California, it's in Anaheim. It's next to Disney World or Disneyland or whatever, and so it's not like you can easily just pop into LA and go see a show or something. Of course not. You know, it's an hour plus drive or whatever, depending on traffic, of course. But if you go to Nashville and kind of get the vibe of a lot of people, it's really loud. It's the worst place to really test gear because it's so loud and it's so crowded and all that. But, you know, we do our part to report the good word and send it back to people and see what they think. And, you know, but a lot of time, the best part about that is just seeing friends that I really don't get to see other than either Nashville or Anaheim once a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's kind of nice.
All right. Is there like a ceremonial, like, first drink? Is this?
Yes, sir. Would you
All
toast
right.
me?
Yes, of course.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
So we've got a Glenlivet 12. I think it's a double barrel is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Double oak.
So what's the double oak mean?
So the double oak would probably refer to the aging process in the barrels that they're being used, and probably without mature. So it says generically matured in European oak and American oak casks. So the American oak casks are bourbon casks straight away. That's what it's going to be. So then the European ones are probably going to be sherry, which in a lot of cases with a Speyside style scotch, the fruitier, friendlier drinking style ones. The smokier, peatier ones are the Islas, like the Nick Offerman style ones.
Right.
Which he's got his own special edition, believe it or not, of a scotch over there that he talked about
He
last
should,
night.
yeah.
Yep. I say last night, we were talking about hot ones earlier off camera. So if you watch that, Nick Offerman was on the Halloween edition. But anyway, so aging process using 2 different barrels, and it gives it a certain unique taste. But Glenlivet, one of the major brands in that Speyside area up there, and hope you enjoy it. It's the second time I've had it. First time I had it was at my mom's wedding. Mom, if you're watching, I don't know if you remember that day or not, Mom. No, I'm just kidding. She remembers.
So you're obviously a bigger Scotch guy than I am. Is this like if this Scotch was a guitar? Let's put it in terms that I understand. If this Scotch was a guitar, what guitar would it be?
In my mind, so here's where it comes down to.
It's not like a 59 burst. I'm hoping you're not using that on me.
And I'm not a Les Paul fan. I'm not a Gibson fan as much. I do have an SG. I want to throw that out there, but it's over there. I will say, if in my words, and if that ever gets, all you have to do is hold the
Oh, it's
silver
cool.
one,
Yeah,
and then you can.
Okay.
Yep. So this is definitely not lower because it's not blended. It's a single malt Scotch.
Okay.
So it means it came from the same distillery. They're their Scotch only, and so it puts it somewhere. What would be a good mid-level comparison?
Would it be a vintage? I mean, it's 12 years. Does this classify as vintage in the whiskey world?
I mean, not necessarily,
Not
because
necessarily.
there's Scotches that
There's
are.
18, 20. I mean,
I got a 21-year Scotch out there.
yeah.
I got an 18-year Scotch out there. I mean, there's definitely ones that are going to be a little bit older. So 12 years ago, let's try to think back. This is kind of fun. 12 years ago, where were guitars at? So this is 2019. We would have been in 2007. So 2007. What would have been something as a good comparison back there? Is
This the Firebird X?
if you want to stick with American brands? It is probably.
Well, this is probably better than that.
It is.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's definitely not low. It's definitely not the highest.
Yeah.
I like to, think, because a lot of my friends know me as PRS fans first. So I look at something like this as an S2
Yep.
series, which would be American made, but still not with the appointments and hardware and of the more core models, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Have you been to the factory?
I want to so badly in Stevensville. Would love to.
It's cool. The nice long, like mile-long bridge from like I guess the mainland or whatever out to Stevensville.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those that you feel like you're on this bridge forever.
I'm getting excited just talking about
But
this.
I went for PRS experience, man, 6-7 years ago. It was Opeth was the performer, which seemed just so out of place in a way
They're
because
huge in Europe.
they are. But most of the time, the acts that I'd seen there or heard about there was either like Santana or some blues rock people or whatever. And
Sure.
so to have a band like that kind of headline their festival, I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But we saw it was like Ricky Skaggs one night and Opeth the next night.
That's so diverse, right?
It was, and I'd never really heard Opeth that much.
How were they received at an event like that? Because I'm sure a lot of the guys are older.
That's what we thought too. It was, I think, okay. It probably wasn't their most receptive audience. You know what I mean? It was okay. I mean, I think it wasn't like people weren't there screaming for their favorite Opeth jams, but they weren't like walking out in mass. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I think you go to an event like that and you just kind of expect to see, like we saw Paul's band, one that like so Ricky Skaggs, we saw Opeth. I mean, Grissom was there, Davey Knowles, Donna Granis was there. I remember seeing. I think Brent Mason was there that year.
Yeah.
It was just this kind of hodgepodge of so many different styles, and so I think, but I mean, I think most of the people there were just kind of going to see the spectacle of it all, maybe not necessarily going because Opeth was like their favorite band or anything.
Right, exactly. So, and I'm sure a lot of folks probably had no idea who the heck they were, but
there was that crowd for sure. They're like sitting off at a table in the corner.
It's the old people judging in the corner, talking about them.
Yeah. Al Di Meola was there. I remember we filmed some of the acts and put them on our YouTube channel. I remember.
Very cool.
So yeah, you can check those out on the YouTube channel.
Link down below.
Yeah.
We'll make sure, as long as he's okay with it, we'll not only throw Premier Guitars links in there, but also his socials. Like always, those will be down below. So if you want to check him out, check Premier Guitar out. We encourage that, of course. Not sponsored, by the way.
Nope.
So not sponsored. I like how he said nope right away. Nope, I don't think so. I actually reached out to, in Swisher, there's a distillery called Cedar Ridge.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I actually reached out to them once to see if they would, sponsor like a single malt, because they do a local non-aged single malt.
Yeah.
They never got back to me. So,
Oh.
that's okay though.
I've played there a couple times. Actually, tonight, a good buddy of mine is playing there tonight. I might try to swing on the way home because I drive right by there on the way home. I might swing by Murali Coryell. He's, do you know Larry Coryell, the famous jazz guitar player?
Sounds familiar.
He was like late 60s, real psychedelic jazz guitar player. It's his son, who is a blues guy. He's not a jazz guy like his father, but I met him before I worked at before I worked at Premier Guitar. I worked at the National Guitar Workshop, and he was one of the instructors there. And so I met him 12, 15 years ago or whatever. And he lives in upstate New York, and he's like never around. And then he texted me. He's like, "Hey, how far are you from Swisher, Iowa?" And I was like, 20 minutes.
Right.
He's like, "I'm playing there in a couple weeks. Let's stop by." And I was like, "Okay." So after this, I'm gonna go and stop by and check out Morale. He's a really great singer, songwriter, blues guy. Just if you like blues stuff, he's really happening.
Very cool. Yeah. So I did reach out to Cedar Ridge, and I think the reason why they didn't entertain anything for me is because the gal asked, "So many subscribers do you have?" I'm like, 200 some. As I'm sure that's probably why. You wouldn't get enough reach if they sponsored a bottle for one episode, I'm sure. But funny thing is, I had a guest on here before.
So there's some right there, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's one of their. So they do, and in the holiday season, they do like a little sampler of all their different styles. And on my first podcast of the year with my singer in one of my cover bands, actually, we shared that 3-pack. It had the bourbon, the rye, and the single malt.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought it was cool, so I kept it over there. But yeah, if you reconsider, it's no big deal.
Door's always open.
The door is always open. There's always a home for you here. I mean, I don't want to drink that stuff. Really don't. Anyway, that's cool though. So you're gonna check that out tonight, and
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I think I'm gonna swing by tonight.
I'm sure you're so musically diverse because you experience all these different people, products, and so he's wearing just I don't know. It's not his. The shirt he's wearing says Mythos pedals.
Mythos pedals, yes.
How many? Can I ask you how many pedal brands do you think you've touched over the years?
I couldn't even. Hundreds. I mean, well, I don't know about hundreds, but you'd probably be, unless it was a very small company of somebody building something, and even then we've had quite a few of those come through. It'd be hard. Usually if somebody asks me about, a lot of times I'll either be at a NAMM show or just out, or maybe my wife hates it because occasionally at a guitar store, if I'm somewhere else, we're traveling somewhere, not in Iowa, and I'll be into a guitar store. Occasionally I'll get recognized or something. And then they'll ask me like, "Hey, what do you think about pedal XYZ?" And most of the time, either that pedal has come through and we reviewed it, or I don't know about that pedal, but that company I've definitely
done something with a certain model, right?
Right, yeah.
Yep,
So,
yep.
I mean, I like to joke that really the best guitar store in Eastern Iowa is probably our office. I mean, at any time, I mean, right now, like we're getting ready for we do the mystery stocking thing every year. I don't know if you know about that. Do you know about that?
I don't know.
So we do this mystery stocking thing. We've done it now, 5 or 6 years ago. But basically, for $40, $30, I can't remember exactly what the price is, but we're going to send you a box of something, and it for sure will have that amount of stuff in it. $40. So you like for $40, maybe you get a couple packs of strings, a clip-on tuner, a strap, some other things.
I'm listening. What was it called again as you're explaining that?
Mystery stocking. I don't know if it's up. The page is up yet.
Oh, okay.
Because the reason is because it sells out. It's sold out in 3, 4, 5 minutes before. I mean, it sells out super quick. And we'll do anywhere between 1,500 and 1,800 boxes of these boxes. But so some of them you'll get a box of stuff. Sometimes you'll get a pedal. Sometimes you'll get an amp. Sometimes you'll get a guitar. But you don't know what it's going to be until the box shows up on your doorstep.
Which makes it fun.
Right? Which makes it fun, right.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing we like to do. And for some people, they like really take it seriously and they'll like, okay, I'm going to put the box under the tree and not open it until Christmas. That kind of thing.
I'm not that guy, by the way, if I ended up doing that.
But the reason I brought that up is because now we're getting ready to do it. So all of these, there's probably 150 or so pedals in this room there's 2 doors down from my office. So right now the gear in the ratio of gear in our office this is kind of the time of year when it's pretty high, usually after the pedal issue, right before mystery stocking. And we usually have a handful of lamps around, handful of guitar. Like we have the Jimmy Page Telecaster in my office. That's pretty good. The mirror one that we reviewed because we shot it for the cover. For this last cover we did, so we do a lot of photography in-house. So a lot of times we'll get stuff in just to we had this amp here on the cover.
Oh, the Archon?
Yep.
Nice.
We had that when it first came out. So a lot of times they'll send us stuff that maybe sometimes we'll go on location, but most of the time we'll shoot photos in-house in a little photo studio there.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I love gear. I've kind of curbed it in the recent years because I reached a point where I felt like, you know what? I think I have everything I need finally.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen you got
I love
there's some
it.
stuff
Nah.
you can.
I will
Yeah,
say
there's some
this:
stuff.
there's a few more pedals in the closet. You know, random things.
Have
here
you
and
always
there.
been a pedal guy?
Because I was not.
I was no,
No.
I'm not. So I basically that's pedal board variation number 3 since I've started playing
This one here.
from Brady Cases, which is a company out of Texas.
Yep.
And Brady does good work, by the way. Shout out to Brady.
Did he build that, or did you send him the pedals for that, or did?
Nope. So
Oh.
the first one I ever got from him, it was just a generic size that he had online. So it was me dipping my toes in, you know. And then the second one I did, I feel like it's 3 now. Anyway, the second one I did, I got it, and then I drilled through. You know, it was kind of a mess my first time doing it because I wanted to look. And if you've seen my pedal board before, you know I try to keep it real nice, real clean.
Yeah.
I did all that myself, and but then I realized that it was too big. Like I had at the time back in the day for second gen, or maybe it was maybe I only had 2. Either way, so I had a Line 6, the Bogner's spider valve,
Yeah.
and it had the big short board,
Yeah.
which wasn't so short. It was pretty big. So I had that, including extra pedals that I wanted to complement. 'Cause I didn't really use much of the effects on that. I'm not, and that's when I bumped solely to right behind. I'm pointing behind him, the tube amplifiers,
Yeah.
and then thus my pedal board changed again, right? So the next time I had Brady build me one, I'm like, hey, I think I love using this Voodoo Lab. I think PX8, if I remember correctly, is what it is. And so basically, I had him custom route out my next board, which was smaller than the last one. And I had him custom route out where the cables go down on the, if you see it, I'll put a picture down below in the video so you can see, but that's it. And when I got that all put together, I'm like, I think this is it. I think I'm happy now. The only thing is I did switch out a previous dirt pedal for the Moonshine V2 version 2, because I wasn't quite happy with what I had before, which is a TC Electronic, the brown distortion one, the basic one.
Not Dark Matter.
Nope.
Mojo.
Yep.
Mojo.
Yep, and that's still in the closet too. But yeah, so I wanted something a little bit more unique, right?
Yeah.
The clean blend, by the way, that's a sweet pedal if you've never checked it out before, guitar players out there. So I reached the point where I'm done on the pedal board. I've got 2 tube amplifiers that I love.
They're really good ones.
One with KT88s, my Bogner Shiva 20th anniversary, I believe it is. I wanted to say 30th, but 20th anniversary. And then my Archon that I love to death because I'm a new metal kind of at heart guy, which we talked about earlier. You know, shout out to the people from that early 2000s that, well, you can see a lot of it on the walls in here too, right? And then guitars. You know, I always think I'm done. I know that'll never change. I recently bought another guitar that a lot of you friends of mine already know. It's on the rack over there. So loving that.
You're a humbucker guy.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, for live playing, I prefer single cuts. I prefer humbuckers. And that's just my style because of the style of music that, you know, I really find myself gravitated towards. I have nothing against most single coiled setups. You know, I've got friends that I've teased about Fenders in the past because I really have no desire for them at all. But that's, again, based on a music taste and my style. You know, Super Strats
I'm
are okay.
like a single coil Fender guy.
And that's cool. And I knew that. I could tell that we'd be 2 different styles, which I think that's what makes the world go round. Not everybody likes the same stuff or plays the same stuff or, you know, I mean, they will. But I respect that, though. Hearing him earlier, he brought a guitar in, which I'd love to have him show at some point. And I heard him, you know, his style. I know it's you can tell the guy knows how to play all kinds of stuff, I'm sure. And the picking and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything you can share? When did you start? When you first started playing guitar? Can you remember when that was? And what got you into it?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also, what style did you first start with?
Yes, I was when I was a kid. I was a Boy Scout, and there's this Boy Scout camp in New Mexico called Philmont, and it's this big like mountainous camp, and troops from all over the country trek there, and you'll go on like a 2-week mountain hike, right? So when I was 13, some of my friends went, and one of the leaders, Dave Gussie from Chicago, shout out to Dave, who I still am in touch with, he brought a guitar, and I had never even touched a guitar before, and so he'd be playing these songs like literally around these campfire songs. It wasn't like he was playing nothing that was like on the radio. It was just all these like folk tunes that he would be playing, from what I remember. And I remember going over and like plucking a string. And I was like, that's it. That's it. Like, I remember I remember what camp we were at. I just went over, he just laid the guitar down. I just went over and I plucked the string, and it was like the vibration, like I could feel it, as weird as that sounds. So after that trip, the day I turned 14, the day we got back from that trip, and that night for my birthday, my parents got me tickets to go see Dave Matthews Band. Oh. And it was at the Palmer Auditorium in Davenport. Tickets were like $20. This was August of '95, and after that night, I was like, "That's it. I need to play guitar." Like between touching that string and going to see that, and I didn't know like a lot about music. Like they played their encore that night was All Along the Watchtower. I thought that was one of their songs. That. Yeah, nice. I thought that was one of their songs.
Right.
I was like, "Oh, I've heard this. This is that band. Oh yeah, perfect." But it was like I remember a mosh pit breaking out at that show.
No kidding.
It was like, I mean, this was like the height of the mosh pit era. Like,
yeah, but Dave Matthews.
There was a mosh pit that broke out at the show. And like, but I just had never heard anybody play guitar like that and seen anybody play guitar like that. And it was the first like real like live concert of somebody of note that I'd ever seen. And so August, that was August. I was telling my parents, I need a guitar. Like what? So I remember like literally the next week I would take whatever I needed to from my allowance or whatever. I didn't have a job at the time. And I'd start buying guitar magazines. And I bought Guitar Player and Guitar World every single month. And I'd stack them. And I would read in there, like, what's this tab stuff? Like, so I learned how to read tab before I had a guitar. So that my thought was like, well, when I get a guitar, I'll be able to know what these numbers and lines mean. So then that Christmas, I got an acoustic guitar, and that was
nice.
You remember
what the brand was?
Yeah, it was a Franciscan, Franciscian.
I feel like I've heard of that before.
I've never seen anything. I've never seen another one, but I still have it. It's in my basement. And then like the following year, I got my grandparents bought me an electric guitar and amp. And then the following Christmas, my parents took that guitar, which was an Ibanez RG 270 or something.
Sure, like a Geo lower end.
Like, yeah, but it had the locking nut and the whammy. I didn't know what I was doing.
Floyd Rose, yeah.
The Floyd, I didn't know that these were problematic when it come to tuning and all. I didn't know any of that. So they traded that in the following Christmas for a Sunburst Strat, which I still have that. I still play it all. I mean, other than the Schroeder, that's probably that. And then I have another Telecaster. Those are the three I probably played the most.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was just seeing that guitar, touching it, and then going to see Dave Matthews. And one of the big full circle moments I've had working at Premier Guitar is we shot a rig rundown with Dave Matthews Band at Wrigley Field right before they went on their hiatus. And it was Wrigley Field and Jason Mraz. And we shot rig rundowns with both of them. And I got to play Dave's guitar on stage at empty Wrigley Field, on stage at Wrigley Field. It wasn't the same guitar that he was playing that night. That would have been super cool. He was playing the black Chet Atkins Gibson that night.
Okay.
This was the Taylor that he played. That was, other than that black one, it's probably the one he's most identified. I'm guessing it's probably the one he wrote like Crash Into Me on.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, it was because this was like 2010. Yeah. So they were just getting ready to go on a hiatus. So we got up there and the tech was like, yeah, he's had this Taylor for 10 years or whatever, you know. And he was kind of telling me the backstory about it. And I was like, yeah, this guitar kind of indirectly, it was the guitar that made me want to play guitar. And the person that plays this guitar made me want to play guitar.
Right.
So there have been a few full circle moments where I have actually held and played the instruments that taught me how to play.
That's gonna be the most surreal moments too.
It is. Probably the most surreal one was the Green Day Billy Joel guitar.
Now, which one? Because he's had a few.
The one, the blue BJ one,
the early one,
the Fernandez, yeah. When we did the rig rundown,
stickered up and everything.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Only one pickup works.
That's all you need in that kind of music, right?
No,
I mean, not a diss. Sorry.
Well, I learned how to play power chords from playing along to Dookie.
Oh yeah.
So this is the guitar that was on Dookie. So it was in DeKalb, That one was, and they were doing pre-production rehearsals. Their tour starts in Chicago, so it was interesting because like nobody in town knew that Green Day was. They were at Northern Illinois, and they were just at the arena at Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
No one knew Green Day was 2 blocks away, just jamming out all week or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So we got to roll in there, and it was like super late. Usually rig rundowns are very like a lot of pressure because you're trying to squeeze in there. You're trying to squeeze some time into their already established day. You know, they have sound check, they got this, and so you're trying. So it's usually time is really valuable on those days. And so they invited us, like, yeah, we'll come up to DeKalb and do it. And so we get done, we shoot the rig rundown, and I was like, I have to ask, is there any way I can get like just a picture of me with the guitar? He's like, oh sure, man. And he was just like nonchalantly, like I handed you that guitar a little while ago with more care than he handed me that Billy Joel guitar.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I put it on, and and again, 13-year-old Jason is like, what is happening, right? And I just kind of start just like strumming chords, and then unbeknownst to me at the time, he's over here and he starts flipping all the switches on the amps. And then all of a sudden I hit a chord, and it's like the full rig in this empty arena.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
And so later he told me that he had 2 Marshall amps. Billy had 2 Marshall amps there, I think a red one and a black one. And they were called Pete and Meat. And those were the 2 amps that he played at the Woodstock show with all the mud. Those are the 2 amps.
Nice.
And those are the 2 amps probably from Dookie.
And you played through them.
And I played through them. So that was like, you know, I still, anytime that picture like will come up on my Facebook, I was like, man, that was such a good day. Like that was, you know, and it was just like, you know, we were there an hour. I got to play it. And it was funny because the other 2 guys I were with, you know, they were all like literally passing that guitar around.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like, God, this is like unbelievable that one day I'd be like, yeah, that guitar and that amp from the Woodstock, was it 94, 99? I think 94.
Yeah.
And one day I would be in an empty arena in DeKalb playing that same guitar through those same amps.
That's crazy.
You know?
So out of the rig rundowns you've been a part of, and you know, been a part of that interview process, is it when the tech's doing, is that like 90% of the time, or how often does the actual artist help?
It depends, because you know, you'll read a lot of comments like, oh, it'd be great if the artists themselves would get in on it. And, you know, we definitely try for that, but sometimes either they're not comfortable talking about their gear, or they have other obligations or whatever.
Well, they're not public speakers.
You know, sometimes it's that, you know,
right.
But usually I would say, you know, at the level of bands that we are doing rig rundowns for, they're touring bands, they're professional bands. You know, these techs are professionals that usually, when we need to ask specific questions, the techs are, if they're not in the video, they're right outside the frame.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like one that was really surprising was Yngwie, because so we shot the Yngwie rig rundown at the House of Blues in Chicago.
Love that venue, by
and
the way.
It was really cool. We've done Yngwie there, Grace Potter, Guns N' Roses, the first one I did there, and then a bunch that I wasn't on. I mean, we shot there a bunch of times. But so I had set up the rig rundown with Yngwie's wife, April, and at the time, so this is probably like a week out. At the time, I think he was in Canada or Europe, or he was maybe not as reachable as he typically is. And so when we show up, usually we show up, we meet the tour manager or whatever. Meet the tour manager, I meet Yngwie. He had no idea it was happening. No, you know, he either he didn't know something was going on, or he knew about it but didn't know what we were doing specifically. And he could not have been cooler, could not have been nicer. And he was there like working on his guitars himself. You know, he was there with the wrench, tweaking this, tweaking that.
So he has no tech?
He did, yeah. But he likes to get his hands on there and, oh, this is a little off, so let me turn this screw or whatever he was doing. And was really, you know, all the stories you heard, sure, but that day he was in a really good mood.
Good.
You know, and it was the loudest, you know, because he has like the 30-some Marshall heads or whatever. I mean, it was quite a feat to see basically his entire Marshall collection on stage, but he only runs through 2 of them. And those are like, I think they were like newer versions of his signature head.
Okay.
But it was so loud. And it's not, I think it's more because when I'm out in the audience and it's that loud, it has to be, I think, more he's just cranked in the PA than the amount of, because I looked, the Marshalls weren't timed,
Right. Yeah.
But even those type of Marshalls, it's not like louder, 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 louder. It's the overall volume kind of on most amps kind of stops at a certain point, and then either it gets more gainy or this or that depending on the amp.
Sure.
So, I mean, standing in front of his amps, it was pretty loud, but I mean, it was incredibly loud, and he would just like the drop of a hat, he could just rip out a lick like it was. To me, it's just amazing seeing somebody with that much efficiency in their technique that at any time without being warmed up, as far as I could tell, he could just
with all that hand hardware too, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't he wear like a bunch of jewelry and stuff like that?
Maybe not so much on his left hand, I don't think.
His fretting hand?
Yeah, but maybe on this hand, But that one, that one was really impressive to me. That one I get asked about quite a bit,
Link below.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you might be. I don't know if we'll link everyone we mentioned, but you can feel free to link whatever you want.
How about the YouTube page instead?
Yeah, sure. That'd be a good one. I think we even have maybe a playlist that just has them all. And we get told a lot of times by text, like a lot of the rig rundowns are popular on the bus, on the tour buses. A lot of texts will come up and say, "Oh man, we watched so and so," or when I remember going in rig rundowns and then be like, "Oh man, just last night we pulled up the whatever rig rundown and they went on ass." Because really, with every rig rundown, there is some kind of like interesting backstory as far as the situation or things around it that happened, And I was like, I keep telling the people, like, someday we gotta like figure out a way to just. They're not like salacious but there's just all these stories around these rig rundowns that like hopefully won't be lost to the ether one day, that we can kind of corral them somehow,
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was Premier Guitar, were they the originators of this kind of format? Mm-hmm. They were, yeah.
Yeah, they were the first ones to do, I mean, rig rundown now is kind of a ubiquitous term, but they were the first ones to do that. And I think a big reason why we've had so much success with it, well, one, because we do them very well, yep. I think our location had a lot to do with it too, because where we were at, because I should say, because we've tried to do rig rundowns in New York City. Mm-hmm. Like I was out in New York City doing a thing with some Broadway shows and Saturday Night Live, and we were trying to do a rig rundown with the Allman Brothers at the Beacon. But because of union rules, I'm guessing it would cost like $10,000 or something for us to like film in this venue. There was like an exorbitant price tag tied to filming in certain venues.
Just certain venues.
Yeah, the ones in the bigger cities, I think we've never really run into it in like Chicago or Nashville, really, for the most part. But like I remember with the Beacon, they're like, yeah, that's going to be $10,000, or we're like, yeah,
up front. That's what they said.
Probably, yeah. I mean, because we talked to the tech, and he's like, yeah, you can't film here. We're like, really? He goes, dude, it's like a lot of red tape when it comes to bringing a camera into a venue like that. So because of where we're at geographically, I think that helped us. And we're kind of central located, so we could be in Chicago. I've done them in Chicago, Omaha, Madison, Milwaukee, Minneapolis. I've done a couple in Nashville. I've done at least one in Nashville.
The one in Madison that I've been to before and saw Chris Cornell. What's down by the Capitol? Is that the one you've been at too?
Is it the Majestic? Sometimes they change names. The Majestic. We did the Black Crows one in Madison. What else? I don't think we've hit Madison too often. Oh, we did Eagles Death Metal in Madison.
I'm just thinking of it, if it's that same venue I saw Chris Cornell in.
It could be.
It was like a a theater like the what's the
Oh,
one
the
in
Barrymore Theater.
Maybe that's what it is. It reminds me of the one in Davenport there.
Oh, the Adler. The one
Yeah.
downtown, the Adler.
It must be. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's probably maybe the Barrymore, I think.
Anyway, but so I'm just curious. So you've been to all these different cities to do all these rig rundowns. Premier Guitar, the originator of this kind of deal. And then at what point did Marion not become the only location where now you've got Nashville where they're doing them there and they're, what's your other location? Is it just Nashville, Marion?
We have most of our editorial staff in Nashville. There's a couple here.
Is Marion the home base?
Yeah.
It is. That's what I thought.
So all
Yeah.
like marketing and business and accounting and that kind of stuff, that's all here.
Okay.
A couple editors, the art department's here, and then like we have a sales staff, so they're kind of distributed across the country.
Okay.
We have 2 editors in San Francisco and 5 or 6 in Nashville. So we're all kind of working from our little corner of the place. But yeah, Marion is the and there aren't any other like offices. Like everybody works from home, basically works remotely. And then this is the single like office, like what you would think of as an office. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Very cool. And how long now have you been working with that company?
It's going to be 10 years in March.
Wow. How did you get that position, if you don't mind sharing that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mentioned before, I was working for this company called the National Guitar Workshop.
I remember that.
Do you remember? They used to I used to buy the ads to put them in all the guitar magazines. And basically what it was a week-long guitar camp. And they had started in the early 80s in Connecticut. And so to kind of back up a little bit, I did my undergrad at Minnesota State in music business. And part of that degree was you had to do an internship. And so this is Mankato, Minnesota, probably about an hour southwest of Minneapolis. And so I'm like looking around for an internship, and I saw that they advertised on the National Guitar Workshop advertised on the website for RAs, resident advisors. So I like sent him an email, probably put together some kind of resume. I'm guessing probably from my resume class, and I sent it in. And like 2 weeks later, the lady called me back. Is this Jason? Yep. This is so-and-so from the National Guitar Workshop. And the only thing she wanted to ask me about was that I was an Eagle Scout. She was very fascinated with this kind of singular thing on my resume. And that's all. So she asked me, cool, okay. And this had to have been like mid-May, I'm thinking, because I remember her asking me, so can you go on the road for a month? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like in college. What am I doing in the summer, So they said, okay, we'll be in touch. And so a couple days later, they called back, yep, we want you to come and be an RA. We'll pay you $200 a week, but we'll cover all your travel and your meals and your housing. So I was like, okay. And so they said, okay, here's the date, June 22nd. We'll meet you in New Orleans. And that was the first week of the thing. So 2 days before that, 2 or 3 days before, I get it. She calls me back and she's like, "Hey, question." Because we had been talking back and forth. Hey, what's your girlfriend doing this summer? And I was like, I don't know. She goes, "Hey, we need a female RA. Would she be willing to go on the road with you?"
Oh, wow.
And my then girlfriend, now wife, we'd only been dating, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months maybe by then, and so she's like, yeah, that'd be great. So that first summer, which would have been summer of 2004, we spent a month on the road. So I would fly to New Orleans, basically kind of just keep an eye on the kids in the dorms for a week. I remember like that week was Sonny Landreth, Greg Koch was that week, Shane Terrio I think was in that week. And they would all, and I'd be hanging with all like the best guitar teachers in the country. And then a couple times a week, we'd have these bigger name guest artists come in. So I remember the first week was New Orleans. Second week was Nashville. So I did New Orleans, Nashville, Chicago, and DC were the 4 that I would do. So I did that first year. This is kind of a long story, but it is coming around. So I did that, and then I kept doing that this summer. And after that first year, they moved me from a resident advisor to an assistant director, and then to a director. And so while I was going to school through undergrad and then into my master's degree, I would take the summers off and go to these, just go for a month or 6 weeks or whatever it was, and travel around and hang out with these guitar players. Not only were, a lot of times students were really, really good, the teachers, and then I'd meet, that's how I met Paul Gilbert and Pat Metheny.
Oh, that's awesome.
And,
I was wondering if you met Paul or actually like these, guitar teachers. And I always think about Paul as a teacher, seeing his videos online. And
yeah, he's great. Fun fact about him, he's one of the best writers I've ever known. He's a really good writer.
For guitar riffs and just songs and everything?
Words.
Just words?
Yeah, words, like a writer. I hope he writes, and I've told him this, I was like, you got to write a book or something, because he wrote a column for me. I was his editor for like a year and a half.
Oh.
And he would send me these columns. I'm like, man, these are really good. Obviously the playing is good. Everybody knows that. But the writing is really, and he had really inventive ideas. But so when I got into grad school, I was coming to the end of grad school. End of grad school, you got to look for a job. So another guy I had known named Corey Christiansen, who at the time worked for Mel Bay, had come to UNI, because I went to University of Northern Iowa and done some clinics and stuff and some lessons, and I think he put in a good word with me with Bill Bay, and so they had me down for an interview, and then concurrently, the workshop was asking what my plans were after school. So within about a week, they both came down with job offers. So my choices were to go to Mel Bay, which is outside of St. Louis, and work probably mostly, I think, if I remember, I was mostly in marketing type stuff, or go to the workshop. But the workshop was offering my wife and I both jobs, which coming out of grad school, 2 jobs seemed to be better one. We'd have to move to Connecticut. So we decided we're going to move to Connecticut. And so once I got there, they put me in charge of marketing and artist relations, lining up all the guest artists. So I would be doing that year round, in addition to then in the summer going on the road, just like I was doing before, and just kind of being the director of each one of these campuses. So we did that for a number of years, and then maybe 3 or 4 years living in Connecticut. And then one of my jobs was buying ads in the various guitar magazines. So I had to reach out to Guitar Player, Guitar World, Premier Guitar, and I would say, this is what kind of budget we have, this kind of ads we need, and I would negotiate that. Well, my ad guy at Premier Guitar, his name's Gary. He's like, because the sales people, they want to get to know you and all that stuff. So he's you're from Iowa, huh? It's like, yeah. He's just, well, you ever come home for Christmas? I go, yeah. Well, next time you come home for Christmas, why don't you stop by the office?
Because it was so close to where home was.
Well, he didn't. But the thing was, he was in New Hampshire, so he didn't really know that Davenport, Cedar Rapids.
Okay, was that close?
That close? But coincidentally, my mom had just moved from Davenport to Cedar Rapids the year before. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I floated out I was like, yeah, if you guys ever have any openings for anybody like me, maybe there's something, whatever. And literally a week later, the owner emailed me. It's like, yeah, when can you come in, and we'd love to talk to you.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay. And so literally I came home. I had a newborn son. We drove in from Connecticut. I was visiting my mom for the first time in Cedar Rapids. I hadn't been to her place in Cedar Rapids. So she emails me the directions to get to her place. And people at Premier Guitar email me directions to get to their place. And I'm looking at them, and they're exactly the same until the last line. And I'm like, that's weird. Okay. And I didn't know Cedar Rapids very well and whatever. So I was like, okay, well, let me go to my mom's place first, and then I'll figure it out from there. So I drive to my mom's place, and then I'm looking, and it's like, oh, the office is a block. I could see from my mom's house, I could see the office.
That is crazy.
They were that
crazy.
close. She still lives. And it's like, okay, so then I go over and I sit down for the interview, and my assumption was there it was maybe for some kind of marketing position because that's kind of what I was doing at the workshop.
Sure.
But they wanted me for editorial. I was like, oh, okay, and so because I had a blog at the time and I'd written some stuff and they had read it and all that, and they said, so this was like December, and then it was about a month or so, and they hit me back. They said, hey, when can you start? So I started in March of 2010. And at the time, they were doing a couple guitar makes. They were doing Premier Guitar and Guitar Edge, which was mostly tab.
I remember Guitar
Remember
Edge.
Guitar Edge?
Yep.
So for like the last year and a half of that, I would write all the lessons in all the song specific lessons in Guitar Edge. I was in charge of that. So I think they were really looking for somebody with a really strong music, like technical music background, somebody who could read music, understand theory, be able to explain it, and then my understanding was like anything past that's just going to be a bonus.
Sure.
So then once Guitar Edge went under, then I just did Premier Guitar stuff, and then that's when I like, hey, do you want to write a feature? Sure, okay. My first feature was on Jimmy Herring, and for a Widespread Panic album, I remember, and then I started to do a couple features here and there, and then I got kind of into the reviews, and it'd start maybe one every couple of months, and then the kind of frequency just kind of crept up. And as we expanded and became more staffed and roles kind of changed and people came in, just kind of normal work stuff, then everybody's role kind of just settles. Everybody's role is pretty broad, but you end up kind of settling down to kind of, okay, this is kind of my nook of everything, and so that became naturally lessons, So because for a while there, Hal Leonard was giving us lessons to use in the magazine, and then at some point we're like, let's just do our own. Let's just commission our own lessons. And so I was just talking to Andy Ellis, one of the editors, and I think last we counted it, we have to be up to close to 500 lessons I've edited since I've been there.
That's a lot of lessons.
That's a lot of lessons. We do 50 a year. Maybe a little more depending on how many, like sometimes we'll do longer ones for a print feature or something like that. But
sure,
we definitely average 50 a year. And
that's a lot. Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
And so that's kind of the main thing I look over. And then, like I said, I do, like right now I'm writing a feature on Jed Hughes. He's a young Australian guitar player from Nashville who currently plays in Vince Gill's band. But somebody asked me last week, I think I've probably written 50 features, something like that. 40. It has to be 40 to 50. I've never gone back and counted, but and there definitely will be times where somebody will send me a link about something I've totally like, oh yeah, I did interview Aerosmith that one time. I totally forgot about that. And then you kind of feel like guilty, like, well, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I mean, there's sometimes you just forget, like.
Yeah.
Or people ask me about rig rundowns, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah." Either I was in it, or I shot it, or I was there.
Sure. Yeah. So let me ask you a question then, and this is me forward thinking because we live in a world today where everything's so internet driven, which is why you said Premier Guitar earlier. Most of it's online, right?
Yep.
And what's next for a company like Premier Guitar? I mean, obviously you're a staple on YouTube with rig rundowns. That's obviously not going to get trumped by anything else. I would not assume so, of course. It's not going to. It's not going to.
YouTube's not letting anybody else in there to do a rig rundown or AC/DC. Yeah.
Right. So you've got that then. You got that under your belt as a company, and then for the other side of things, you already have a huge presence online. It sounds like as a website for the content. Yeah. Not just YouTube for rig rundowns. So what's the next big thing for a company like yours then? I mean,
I don't know if I'm allowed to divulge our secret plans, but
asking the right questions. It sounds like.
I mean, we just
have a few more drinks.
I mean, like any media company, you're always kind of just looking for kind of interesting and engaging ways to, present content, and like one thing, we are planning to mix up the reviews going forward as far as the format. We're going to try some new things out. That's still in the works, in the discussion phase. We're always trying to make rig rundowns better or make features better.
I think rig rundowns are already pretty spot on, right?
Sure, yeah, but you don't want to just get complacent in them,
Oh yeah, that's
And whether it's, and I know the guys in Nashville work hard on the production side of things. There's one coming, like, let's see, this week was King Crimson. That was pretty cool. I think the longest, coming up here in a couple of weeks, will be, I believe, the longest rig rundown we've ever published.
Which is going to be how long?
It'll be, I believe, 95 minutes.
I mean, that's pretty
That's
long.
like feature length.
Was it a 3-guitar band or what?
2 guitars and a bass player.
2 guitars and a bass player.
We've posted about it online. It wouldn't be a secret. If you follow us on Instagram, you could probably guess. It's somebody we've shot recently.
Which I do follow you on that. Premier Guitar. Probably spelled it wrong. There we go.
Yep.
King Crimson, yep. Robert Fripp.
That's not a long one. That's only like 15 minutes. But
That's the trailer one.
no, oh, that's the trailer one. Okay.
Yeah.
The full one's like 15 minutes, 16 minutes.
Got 480 subscribers, a ton of videos.
480,000.
480,000. I'm sorry, 480,000.
Carry the one.
Whoa now. Whoa.
Carry the one.
Yeah, so I mean, these are all here, obviously. Baroness, too. Nice. Yeah. So diverse on all the different. It's not just one style, and that's the best thing. And
No, honestly, there'll be times where, like, because one thing I do is I edit the text that goes along with them on the article page. That's kind of my little piece of that nugget every week that we push around. And there'll be bands come up. I'm like, man, I've never heard of this band.
give me an example, one that you saw recently.
Pull up a list, I'll tell you. Or go back to the video list you were just on.
Yeah, give me one second here. I might as well record this if we're going to be taking a look at it. Go to the playlist.
Hit videos.
Videos?
Yeah. Because that'll give... well, like King Crimson, obviously I knew. Samantha Fisher, yeah. Covet?
I've never heard of that one.
Scroll down a little bit. That was a recent one. Like Thunder Pussy, I was not that I didn't really know.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that either.
Baroness I knew because we'd written about him before.
Yeah. I knew Baroness.
I'm seeing what else we got. Third Eye Blind, of course.
Of course.
Billy Strings is great. Down in the right
Is
corner,
it?
bottom
Right
right.
here?
He's really great. There's a feature on him that we wrote in our next issue, coming up in our next issue.
It's up here if you can't see it as
Oh,
well over
there
there
we go.
too. Sorry, that's why. Got that up there.
I mean, everybody knows Greg Koch, Nita Strauss, Cherry Glazer. I wasn't that familiar with.
Yeah.
And then then you start getting the Summer NAMM stuff, which is its own kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So Summer NAMM then, if we talk about that just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Coolest new product you saw recently up at Summer NAMM?
Let's see. Well, we did do Editor's Picks each day talking about the coolest things. But if you didn't want to watch that, I thought the Chase Bliss Mood was pretty cool. That one kind of right there in the middle.
Yep.
That kind of peach-looking pedal. That was pretty cool. I've already forgotten what I've always seen. Scroll down a little bit more. Keep going. The Rev G2, if you like a low-medium overdrive, which is kind of my thing, that was really...
Rev makes a lot of
Really
popular
hip.
pedals, don't they?
They do. It seemed to me most of their stuff, for my taste, had a little too much gain. They're more higher gain than...
Yeah, exactly.
But that one, I wouldn't have any qualms for people who were not high gain players. The Boss Synth was cool. The big news, I guess, was the Fender Amps down there in the middle at the bottom there. The Tone Master.
Solid state.
Digital, yes.
Yeah.
But it's a twin that weighs 30 pounds. I mean, which is, for some people, it's like, well, if it sounds good.
I had a friend,
sold.
Irish Mike Cleary, shout out. He actually recently bought a Boss Katana.
I've heard good things about those. I've never played one.
He brought it over.
Mm-hmm.
Sounded pretty for what it, a solid state or digital or whatever you want to call it in today's day and age. It was really good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Little combo. It was very powerful and it sounded good.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not so much a purist where if there's not glowing glass in the back, it's, because I'm using, like right now, because I've started to do a lot more musical theater work in Cedar Rapids. And those are kind of its own thing because you're usually underground in a basement under the stage, and sound needs to be dealt with in a very specific way. You can't really have just a tube amp like these amps. They wouldn't even let you in the door. No,
because because of
it's a 14-piece band.
Yeah.
There's horns. There's sometimes strings. there's either an electric or an acoustic drum kit. There's percussion going on. Everybody's mic, like it's just you got to watch the volume.
It's controlled. They got to keep it controlled.
Yeah, they got to keep it controlled. And because it's not about you, it's about the people on stage and everything else.
Of course.
So I just did Hello Dolly for TCR. And for that, I used an HX Stomp. And it worked
Line 6, right?
great. Worked great.
Yep.
Worked super great. So, and I did just get into MIDI, putting MIDI on my pedal board, which was not as scary as I had thought for all these years.
That's like, my pedal board down there, that PX8, it's not full on MIDI controlled, but I have some features in there that are.
Yeah.
I feel like a missed opportunity. I could have went the extra mile and really hooked up the Eventide H9s
Yeah.
and done more MIDI with that. But I was kind of tiptoeing my way.
Yeah. It's, once you, for whatever specific, like for the HX Stomp, I use a Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller, which is about the size of a Stomp, and it has 6 buttons and then a screen on it. So, I have it programmed with my pedal board where I can either go direct out of the HX Stomp, and then I have like my analog drive pedals with it.
Sure.
So I could either go direct out of an HX Stomp like I would for a musical, and because then there's a monitor there, or sometimes you have ears for the musical, in-ears, but with 2 buttons, I can turn all the amp modeling off in the HX Stomp and just have effects.
Nice.
Because for the like the band of stuff I play in, I need a fair amount of effects, but I only need them for like this song or that song or this part or that part.
Sure.
I don't. So I like having just a lot of effects ready to go at any time. So I'm not the type that would like program presets for songs. Like I just need a palette like Bob Ross. I just need all the colors there. So that way when I'm ready to get them, there I go.
Same way.
Yeah.
So for me, the way it's set up down there, I've got, the Eventide set up, 2 of them, so I could have separate, but also 2 at the same time. I wish they would allow 2 effects at once. You have to get separate pedals with H9s, unfortunately.
I may have heard that might be changing in the future.
What?
I mean, that's from day one. That's the number one request they've had.
Yeah.
So that's why some of their algorithms, the newer ones, will have 2 effects at once.
Right.
Whether it's delay and reverb or whatever. But
which I have downloaded recently. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I would say it's natural for them to eventually. I don't know if that would mean it's just a simple firmware upgrade or if it's an actual new unit.
Can I give you my opinion on why they're doing it this way?
Oh, they want to sell more of those. Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. The nice thing is, though, if you buy an
But
H9,
they're really good. They're really
phenomenal.
good. Yeah.
If you buy an H9 Max, the nice thing is that you can buy one H9 Max, and if you can buy a certain amount of just basic core ones, and you'll still get all of the presets because you spent for one Max. So they let you take. So one of those is a Max.
Yep.
Like the most expensive one with all the, and then the other one is the least expensive one they have.
Right.
Because as long as you have the license for the Max.
You can put them on either one you want.
So when I get one for my bass rig someday, I'm going to do a bass pedal board. I want to get one for that, and I'll buy the cheapest one again because it'll literally bring all the effects over for me.
Have you ever messed around with like the Kemper Helix stuff?
I have not. But again, the reason I haven't, because the amps behind you, I feel like I'm one of those snobs in a way, right? Where I want to have the glowing glass, which I loved how he mentioned that earlier. And I know they're great for being what they are, and I should consider it.
Have you ever played through one?
I haven't. No, I've just heard them, and I know you can't
Tell
judge.
from audibly. You can't tell.
Of course.
Yeah.
So for me, I haven't, but I know there's people that have and say they're great things about them. We talked about this Focusrite.
Oh yeah.
I bought the Archon plugins from the company that partnered with PRS for those.
Waves maybe or.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. Anyway, so I bought those. I bought that plugin pack that had the Archon, and I cannot get it no matter what. And I know I cannot get it to sound just like that amp does behind you. It sounds good through this for headphones, but it just doesn't give me the same experience. Now, I think a Kemper would be fine, and if you're touring or like a Helix or Axe FX, right? You're touring, it's an easy setup. You get in, and a lot of bands use that, right? They do. A lot of bands I've seen live. I'm like, where's the amps on stage? There is none because it's all pedal controlled.
I've started to dip my toe a little bit in that I still have my Hot Rod Deluxe that I will use forever.
Good man.
But having something like that, even just like because we did get a couple weeks ago, we're going to be reviewing the Kemper Stage, the new floorboard.
I saw that. I didn't see that you're going to review one, but I've seen it when it was released. Is there a video on your YouTube page
No,
for it
not
too?
yet. No.
No. Okay.
But we're in the midst of, it's with the reviewer now, I should say. I'm not sure what, it might be in the next issue, I think. But
Spoiler alert.
yeah, if not, it'll be the issue after that.
Right.
But that was the first time we did review the original Kemper when it first came out years ago. At NAMM, I did one of the first demos of it, like NAMM demo. And I remember me and the camera guy, so he had like a dual rectifier and then this. And then he's like, okay, here's what the amp sounds like. Dun, 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 dun. And then you hit a button. And then here's what the Kemper sounds like. Dun, 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 dun. And we're like, we had looked at each other like, really? Like, are you like trying to pull a fat? Like, we thought they were like trying to trick us. This wasn't on camera. This was before we started shooting. I kind of thought like, wow, is he like trying to pull a? Because I can't like see the exact routing of how everything's going. All I know is that these two sound sources are coming at me and they sound exactly the same. And obviously when they go to a show like that, they really do their homework to dial in everything to the and
well, of course.
And when it's Christoph Kemper doing it himself, it's going to be as good as it can be.
Right. Yep.
So this is the first time I really had, a couple weeks ago when I had the stage, to really kind of put my hands on it and see what it was about. And I was I took it to rehearsal and I played it and the guy's like, that sounds like an amp. I mean, but to me, the key with all that stuff, all the Helix and the Fractal, when you say it's not the same experience, it to me, the biggest difference is how you are hearing it, whether that's through nice headphones, studio monitors, a full range cab, like that you have to factor into it. Because if you had like a full range cab or something and you had that Archon head and a Helix or something which has an Archon model in it, and they were kind of right next to each other and you were kind of A-Bing, it'd probably be much closer. The feel of it would probably be much closer than you would think.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I tend to people like don't necessarily like think plugging in the headphones and dialing up a preset. That doesn't really do those type of things justice, because you're really like the versatility. And like I said, I might only need harmonic tremble on this one little part of a song, and I don't want to like get a pedal or something just for this one little thing on a demo or on whatever track, So the flexibility, especially for all the different types of gigs I play, is really, really helpful.
I respect that too. I think the other part of it is seeing some of the bands live in the past where they have I know they play Kempers through just following them as a band and knowing when I'm there though, they don't have the air pushing behind them either. Like,
do they have in-ears usually?
Oh, of course. Yeah. But for me, I think it's fun to kind of have that experience. And some people don't like the loud stage volume,
But I mean, you can get like a full range cab and it's exactly the same.
But bands that don't have any cabs on stage, it's all in-ear monitors, and it's like easy in and off the stage. You're worried about the stage.
They're looking for just ease of use and consistency.
I know. And for me, it's like when I get out and play, I don't play every weekend as a gigging musician or a cover band guy that I am. But when I get out, it's fun to kind of, set it up. And
sure.
For me, so I completely
But
get
I wouldn't be
people to
upset
use
if somebody else wanted to set it up for me. I wouldn't bother me at all.
Wouldn't be upset by that.
Right?
It's funny. I played at Chrome Horse and Nubo a few times before. It would be so fun, and I don't expect you to entertain this at all. But I couldn't let myself not ask if I was out there sometime and you were available. I'd love you to come out and do a rig run.
People ask us all the time, and luckily I have. Well, luckily I have the excuse now. It's like those are all done in Nashville now.
They're all right. Just tell me that on camera, and we're fine. I won't ask you again.
But people will show up with their phones. I remember a weird thing was when we'd be shooting a rig rundown and we'd be pushing right up against when doors would open at the venue.
Yeah.
And they would we'd still be shooting, but people would slowly start to come in.
Yeah.
People will they'll get out their cameras and like film us filming the rig rundown. Like the Paul Gilbert one we did, that was at House of Blues in Chicago. And all of a sudden I'm looking at it and there's like they're like this VIP thing that they did.
Sure.
And so like and they're all guitar nerds, right?
Of
So they
course,
all
yeah.
knew who we
I
were.
loved it. Yep.
And so they're all just getting out their cameras and then some of them would post like on YouTube like here's like a bootleg rig rundown or what a part of a rig rundown or whatever.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, that people ask us that all the time. Like
Yeah.
you know.
Like I said, I couldn't let myself not ask just for shits and giggles.
Sure.
You know, be like, hey, you know.
Still no, but I mean, hey, go ahead and ask. That's what I tell people. You can ask all day long. I mean, it's still usually a no. I mean,
No, it's cool.
I mean, you'd probably be surprised. Like some bands we really want to do a rig rundown with, but with scheduling and stuff. I mean, we all have lives, and it's like if the right people aren't available on that particular day, it's just really hard to do. You know.
I had a perfect setup because we have played at Chrome Horse and Nubo,
Yeah.
and I know that's close to where you're at. So, and I'm just cover band, like all my friends know, right?
Yeah.
So it's the last thing that anybody would ever do, and of course I wouldn't want it to be for Premier Guitar. You just something for the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
But
You should do it yourself. Totally.
I know, right? I could have.
I mean, people do. I mean, if you type in rig rundown on YouTube, you'll get a lot of us, but you'll get a lot of other people too, for sure.
imitators. Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to be an imitator. I just wanted to ask just to get his reaction, just for the fun of it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So we've talked about a lot of things so far, including how you started playing guitar, what got you started, first live, Dave Matthews, tying that back to someday when you're working for a company that allows you to work with something you're passionate about, and then you get to eventually hold an instrument or, get influenced by something that influenced you back in the day and get it again, and surreal. We talked about Premier Guitar, where it's at, possibly some things you would consider doing as a magazine, because you're always looking to improve like anybody else. Not that you need to improve, but
We do.
So for you personally, the person that you are then, not to get too personal, I keep saying that. I know he plays guitar. He's a family man. You've got, obviously, at home, what's it like? Because your wife, is she musically talented as well then, I'm assuming?
She's the most talented musician in the family.
Of course. All right. So,
No, she's a full-time voice teacher.
very cool.
So yeah, so that's her job. I mean, is
Gotcha.
teaching voice lessons. She plays piano really well too, and sings, of course. And then kids are in. My son plays piano and trumpet. My daughter plays piano, and I think she's gonna be the guitar player of the two. I think.
Nice.
Anytime there's a guitar sitting out, she will kind of gravitate towards it.
Very cool. How old is she?
She's going to be 8 here next week. 8 in like 10 days, yeah. She'll be 8. And my son's 11.
Very cool.
So, but I did take her to her first concert on Father's Day this year.
Which was?
Her favorite band of all, her legit favorite band. She knows the words of the songs. The whole deal is Lake Street Dive. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
They're this super hip, like kind of pop rock band. They're from Boston. Or they were at one time, and the bass player's from Iowa City. And it's like upright bass. It started upright bass, drums, trumpet, and voice. And then the trumpet player also plays guitar. And those four, they were like jazz school nerds from Boston. They all went to NEC in Boston. And then they just decided to put like this super hip pop band together, and they have songs like Side Pony and Good Kisser and she'll know all the songs. So a slight perk is, sometimes we get slipped some tickets once in a while. It's a perk of the job. So I made some calls and got her, she has like her backstage pass on her shirt. I will say my kids are very spoiled that way, that they think every concert you get to go backstage at. I was like, that's not the case.
It's not the case, yeah.
It's not the case. But but I took like my son to go see Charlie Hunter when he was in Cedar Rapids. You know him?
Not familiar.
It's like an 8-string guitar player, plays
an
bass
8-string over there too.
Plays bass and guitar at the same time. Slightly different than that one though, because it's like actual 3 bass strings.
Oh.
And then
okay.
4 guitar strings.
Gotcha.
And then he'll go to 2 amps, a bass amp and a guitar amp.
Oh, very cool.
And he's anybody who sees him is almost instantly a fan, because he's just It's so funky and so cool, and you hear all this music coming from him, and it's just one guy sitting there with guitar. And so I took him to that, and he was really into it. And I took him to see Julian Lage, another jazz guitar player. I mean, he plays instrumental improvised music. You know, sometimes it swings, sometimes it doesn't on purpose. So I've taken him to a couple of things, and he's hung pretty well. You know, he it seems to me he's more interested in kind of the hang and just being around these people and hanging out with Dad than like,
Sure.
oh yeah, let's listen to that third track on this record. You know, he's not so much in that, but he has a real knack for remembering lyrics and singing. He also sings pretty well too.
Cool.
So it seems to me there's been a more than average amount of musical talent somehow injected into his DNA.
Well, of course, from you and your wife.
And nobody in our families really are musicians. You know, my parents neither out of all four of our parents, like they can, I think her mom might have been in choir or something, but there's no like real serious musical,
Sure.
you know,
Performance-wise. Yeah,
nothing,
exactly. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool though that your kids are into music.
Oh yeah.
My oldest plays trumpet. My youngest plays saxophone.
Is he on trumpet or cornet? Because my son's starting on cornet. Did your son start on cornet?
Just trumpet.
He went straight to trumpet?
Straight to trumpet. Yep.
Like fifth grade probably? Or
Well, now he's a freshman in high school.
but did he start in like fifth?
Yes, it would have been.
Okay.
Yep. And the thing is, you know, I showed Jason for the friends who've seen it in my drum room or with all the, you know, I've got a drum kit, I've got guitars and basses. I've tried to get my kids to really to do something, right?
It's hard not to push them because you know, I mean, I started when I was 14 and I felt like I was a late bloomer. Mm-hmm. And people are like, "What, are you kidding me?" No, like,
Sorry, when I was in
there
high
have
school.
been, I mean, there are definitely some famous guitar players who didn't start until they were in their 20s. I
Yeah.
mean, for sure, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's hard to like walk that line because you know if they just start early and something bites them and they're into it, that's gonna do better. But for us, it was just like we're just gonna play music around the house all the time. They're gonna see us playing gigs, you know. I'm gonna against whether it's against the will or not, we're going to see this concert, and that kind of stuff, and then it just kind of, you know, soaks in. Or I'll leave a. My son loves to do this now. We have this like big note book of Christmas songs. I just leave it open on the piano because it's like the note and then like the letters in the note. You know what I mean? And I just leave it open on the piano, and he'll just go over there and just like. And he knows the notes on the piano. Like he knows if you ask him to play an A, he'll play an A or a B or whatever. But he'll just go over there and just like plunk out those melodies, you know. And then he'll just walk away, or he'll be singing a song, or he'll go back over and he'll just plunk them out. And to me, that's been the most effective way to get them into music is to just completely smother them with it. It's like, you know, I used to give my daughter baths. Like, hey, we should put some music on while you take a shower or a bath, or I'll give you a bath or something. And then I'll let her like make a playlist. And of course it'll be like the requisite Disney pop or whatever.
Of course.
But she has Brandy Carlisle on it. She has Bare Naked Ladies.
Oh yeah.
What else is on there? Mark Lettieri from Snarky Puppy is on there. Like his baritone guitar funk stuff is on there. Maren Morris is on there. So it's pretty cool when you know, she's like listening to real music that would exist outside of a house that had like a tween girl in it or something, you know.
Exactly. It's diverse
Yeah.
too, which is exciting because a lot of kids, I'm sure they wouldn't even know, you know, 3/4 of, you know, what we've mentioned tonight. My kids, when they watch this, my oldest, he watches this a lot too.
Yeah.
And
What does he listen to?
He listens, making me proud that he likes a lot of the stuff that I like. So where I've graduated to, and I don't know if graduated is the right word for it, but what I currently enjoy and love listening to is a lot of, I don't know if, there's so many genres out there or different styles of genres. So like metal, heavy metal, hard rock. He likes the same stuff. He basically, well, you know, being the oldest, he's heard more of it than the youngest has.
Yeah.
All the stuff that I've grown up listening to, a lot of the stuff that's in this room, he likes too. His first concert I took him to was Adam Gontier at Ribco when he did a solo acoustic.
Is it from 3 Days Grace?
Correct.
Yep.
And now he's got Saint Asonia that he plays in. So we went and saw him. That was his first concert. And then I took him to see.
Oh, he's in Saint Asonia. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because the 3 Days Grace thing didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then I took him, my oldest, to his first full concert, which was Machine Head, if you're familiar with that band.
Rob Flynn.
Hell yeah. It was at Woolies in Des Moines. And then he loved that. So he's very much like me. Now, my youngest, he loves the idea of drums, which is I hope he takes on the drums someday.
Yeah.
So I bought him a little Simmons, little
electric kit.
Yeah, the little $200, where it's open-handed, middle snare position,
Right.
a little compact kit. And he kind of played a little bit and on that. And I bought the Roland kit in my drum room thinking that it'd be good for me because I want to play more and for him too. But my kids, unfortunately, they like the quick fixes like video games, Fortnites, and oldest plays more Rainbow Six instead of that. And, they're both spoiled with PlayStations and, today's modern technologies.
Do they come see you play?
They have seen me play at events where they were public or it would be not at bars, but like we've played at some outside
Outdoor
city,
summertime city park, Friday night at 5 type stuff.
Under the gazebo, acoustic band versions of, some of that stuff.
Right.
Of course, they've been to a couple of those, but other than that, then they haven't.
That's what
Yeah, but yeah. So my kids, they both like music, but my oldest is more into the music I like, or my youngest, and it's fine. He can like whatever he wants. He's more into like the poppier side, and that's fine too. But yeah.
Did you go see? I see Slipknot. Did you go see them when they were at the Cell Center a couple years ago?
I did not. Last time I saw Slipknot was this one. That was in Chicago at the amphitheater up there. I also saw Lamb of God, which is one of my favorite bands that I.
They're due for a new rig rundown.
They are. So
so Slipknot actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see that. So I'm a metal guy, basically, is what I am. All the high gains, amps and things like that, and the single cut guitars, humbuckers. I'm sure that's pretty expected at this point from what you've seen. But that's just what I'm into. Again, I feel like it's because of all that 3 Days Grace. My favorite bands when I was in high school, it was 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, Chevelle, which I've seen. Oh my God, I've seen Chevelle so many times, including at that House of Blues in Chicago you've talked about. I love that venue because of 2 reasons. The parking garages that I don't know what they're called. They're
on the cover of that Wilco album.
Yes.
Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about, and I love those. And also down below, it's something Last Resort. It's a restaurant where they, if you've never been there before, it's hilarious. They put these paper hats on your head and they write stuff on them.
Oh, Dick's Last Resort.
Dick's Last Resort. Yep. So I love that venue. I've seen countless bands there. These are not the only concerts I've been to. These are a lot of ones I've just had VIP memorabilia from, so I framed them.
Yeah.
I've been to a gajillion concerts, it seems like. But that early 2000s new metal, that's my stuff.
So we shot the Slipknot rig rundown here in Cedar Rapids at the arena.
You did, yep.
Yep. And it was on Mother's Day, I remember. It was a Sunday. It was, of course it was Mother's Day. And so I was like, honey, I gotta do this work thing, because I wouldn't call myself like a fan of Slipknot, but I like their stuff. It's fine. It's nothing I like spin in my free time, but I can.
Sure.
I'm not gonna turn it off. I guess if it comes on, and I'm not gonna clutch my pearls. About
that's
that.
Good. I like that phrase. So
I was like, okay, cool. So me and Chris went, and they had just brought on the new bass player.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Nobody knew who he was at the time. So we shoot our rig rundown, and it was the most family-friendly backstage I'd ever seen, because it was basically like a hometown show for them. So, like, there was like puppies and kids flowing around everywhere. Like, everybody was super cool. They took great care of us, and we did shoot a rig rundown with the bass player that has never seen the light of day.
Why?
I don't exactly know. I think at the time we shot it, they weren't quite ready to spill the beans fully on him.
And he plays that headless bass too.
Yeah, he was in the video. It was probably a good 20 minutes with him.
What's that brand of bass he's playing with that no headstock on it? Do you know?
Yeah, I'd have to. I don't know off the top of my head. I remember seeing it. No, not off the top of my head. Yeah. But both Mick and Jim did their own parts of the rig rundown, and it was super cool. And then I went to the show that night because I was like, oh, I'd never seen Slipknot before, and it was terrifying.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
One of the best stage shows. Honestly,
Yeah.
if you could think about the most memorable, and it'll be different for me and you, which I appreciate, but what is the most memorable stage show you've ever seen?
Hands down, Roger Waters playing The Wall at Wrigley Field.
Oh, of course. That.
I mean,
Pink Floyd. Style, right?
It was. I mean, that's probably my favorite Pink Floyd album, and that was the day we shot the rig rundown. And it's like a 4-hour drive to Chicago, whatever.
Of course.
So when we do these rig rundown, well, at least when we did them from here, we would drive all the way to Chicago or Minneapolis or whatever. We'd shoot the rig rundown and we'd drive all the way home. Because that's a full day. That's a 10, 12-hour day, right?
Just like in a cargo van you take or something?
No, in our cars.
Oh, just in your cars?
Just in our cars.
I didn't know if you carry a lot of gear or not. So.
We have a camera. So we have like a Pelican case, and maybe a camera bag or something like that. Not too much. 2 people could carry it, no problem. At least at that time. I think we roll with a little more gear now. But so it was me and Tessa and Becca. And so we drove up there and we're like, wow, we really should. And most of the time they're very cool and they will like, hey, can you stay for the show? We would love to have you stay for the show. And when we do these rig rundowns, which is really cool. Yeah. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But this one I was like, ladies, I was probably the biggest Pink Floyd fan, but I wasn't driving. So usually whoever's driving kind of gets the say, because it's, you're not getting home till midnight probably.
Right, yeah.
And so it's the difference between getting home at midnight and getting home at 4 a.m. That's the difference we're talking about here. After you've worked all day already.
Oh, yeah.
Or drove all day. And so I was like, and they're like, okay, let's stay. And
you said it was Wrigley Field, by the way?
It was Wrigley Field.
Okay, sorry, go for it.
And so they got us 15th row center seats or whatever. And it was like the way he did it. So it's like it's a double album. It's a concept record. And the first half of the show, they build the wall. They actually physically build. So there's the band, and then there's the wall in front of the band, and then there's the audience, right? So by most of the way through the first half of the record, you can't see the band at all. And then there's a plane on top of the roof, Wrigley Field, if you can imagine. So the wall, the stage, the outfield facing home plate. There's a plane to start the second half of the show that comes down and crashes into the wall, and then all things like, and then the wall itself, they were projecting images on, and then when Dave Kilminster did the guitar solo Uncomfortably Numb, he was on top of the wall.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. Billy Corgan was there.
Oh, nice.
Well, he was a couple seats down from us.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, we walked out of there at, I don't know, 11:30 or something, and we're like, that was the most unbelievable thing we'd ever seen. I mean, it was really, really good. I just put up, I found a video of Comfortably Numb from that show from kind of my seat, and I just put it up on YouTube. You can put that link below. That'll be good. And
tell them down below.
But that was, as far as a visual thing, like the music was the music. It sounded just like the record. It was great.
Nice.
Seeing Roger Waters there and doing the rig rundown with him. And that was the funny part where he had just come out with a signature bass at that time. And it was just like a black, I think, precision or black jazz bass, I think it was. And so we're there on stage with the tech, and he just hands me this Fender bass. And I was like, oh, is this the new signature model? He goes, no. I go, what do you mean? He goes, no, that was the bass that he used on the wall on Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm like,
oh man, it was still in good shape then?
It looked
like it was in good shape?
I mean, it wasn't. Like my guitar is more beat up than that one was.
Yeah.
I mean,
which we're gonna get to, by the way. I want to.
It had some nicks and stuff in it, but it wasn't like tore up. I mean,
right.
But he's like, no, that's the original bass. I was like, oof, okay. That was pretty kind of. So I like plunked. I did like the little riff to Money, and then I put it away. I was like, that's too much. My head can't be wrapped. I can't wrap my head around this right now. But that was like, that tour was G.E. Smith from the SNL band, from the early 90s Saturday Night Live band.
Okay.
He was in the band, Snowy White, and then Dave Kilminster. They're the 3 guitar players in the band. So that was a big one. That was a really fun.
So that was the biggest one for you.
Visually, yeah. I've never seen, musically there have been some other ones that have stuck out for a number of reasons, but visually seeing something that's like, I'm never gonna see this again. You're never gonna see that again. I mean,
Right.
it's unbelievable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yep. I think about, for me, Tool has been always
What do you think
crazy.
of the new album?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came out, I streamed it I have surround sound in my living room, Dolby Atmos,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a Friday. So every Friday night, it's me at the house by myself. My kids are with my ex-wife
Mm-hmm.
every Friday. I have them primary, but she has them every other weekend, and then every Friday she has them.
Mm-hmm.
And then my girlfriend, oh, she'll be here at some point tonight, I'm sure too. Lacey, when she works a second job where she waitresses 1 day a week at a bar in the neighboring town.
Mm-hmm.
She's done it forever.
Yeah.
Good friends with the owner and the family. So I sat out on my couch, got a bottle of scotch out, and listened to the whole album. Just soaked it all in. It's a great combination of a couple of different albums, and all the songs are super long. They build stories. It's so fun just to sit and experience them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Maynard doesn't sing as much as he used to, it doesn't matter.
He doesn't, right? That's not, I mean, I can't say I'm a connoisseur of their catalog, but I know what Tool sounds like. But
Right.
when I listen to this, I was like, seems like he's not singing as much on this one.
Exactly. Now, somebody did, of course, when albums are released from bands like this, where they're that huge and popular, where you get all these, keyboard guys, or they're basically throwing their opinions out. People have done actually research on how many words per album Maynard has sung. Thank you. I've had a few drinks. Anyway, sung from the beginning to this point, and technically, he's still singing a lot, but the
Songs are so long, it doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, for years, there were all these stories leading up to this, how, I think it was Mark Tremonti told me one time he had heard some of a Tool record. And this is like 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he had heard, and it seemed to me like the way they do it is they just like write all the music, get all the music done, and then they send it to Maynard, and then he does his vocals, like to whatever they have, which seems
Right.
to make sense because like the longer songs, the Justin and Danny and Adam got all this stuff together, and then maybe they like parsed out sections or something, and then just set it to Maynard, and he just did his thing over it. It's
But you know what's really nice about the new Tool album? That Maynard, whether or not he was trying to avoid singing as much, but like I said, people have researched that he is singing still, is that he's letting certain parts of the song breathe and give life to an instrumental part that is pretty incredible. And I think that's pretty nice too. Again, when I listened to it and that opening night I streamed it in there, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was an experience, right? It's not Pink. You can never compare it to Pink Floyd. I'm not comparing it to that. But when I think about the times that I've seen Tool, stage show, laser lights, backdrops, it's not Pink Floyd, but there's very few bands that go the extra mile, it seems like, to Pink Floyd, to Tool, I've seen another band, you're probably not going to believe this, but Nine Inch Nails, when I saw them with the With Teeth tour, the amount of whatever they had going on stage for special effects and incredible, I don't know, it was like there was a screen in front of the stage in some parts where it had them controlling something to make it look different. And I guess what I'm saying is that how many bands that have you seen that you've done rigged rundowns for, maybe you stayed behind or you've seen live, where they actually go that extra mile though, like that style, where they try to make it an experience for the people that are watching.
yeah. I mean, I say the one to me, the Roger Waters sticks out so much, but there have been bands like Fish has an incredible light show.
They do.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, it's not like there's not a lot of like video walls or anything like that, but their light show is really like dialed in. I'm the resident kind of jam band nerd on staff, and Fish has a ridiculously great light show. Who else has? Dweezil has some good stuff going on. Yeah. He's coming back to town here, I think in March. That's and that whole Zappa music, I didn't get that until I went and saw Dweezil. And I was like, oh, when we did that was a rig now we did Madison.
When you saw it,
it made sense. I was like, I get it now. It was a really, really slamming band.
I never really dug his dad's music, really, though.
That's what he's playing. He's just playing his dad's music.
But I never really got into that style, I guess.
You got to go see him live. I'm saying that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. Like I never was either, and then I went and saw him live. I was like, I got it. That's the thing, because people a lot of times say Fish sounds a lot like the Dead. They don't sound like the Dead at all. They sound more like Zappa than the Dead. But just the funny lyrics and like, you know, these long composed sections and then these improv sections and how they're kind of all mixed together. That's way more of a Zappa thing than a Grateful Dead thing. But
Can I ask you a question?
yeah,
Your opinion on John Mayer?
love John Mayer. I'm not a John Mayer hater at all. More here. Anytime you can hear guitar solos on the record or on the radio, anytime somebody at that pop level inspires people to play guitar, and I put Taylor Swift in that category too.
T-Swizzle.
And anytime, and then the thing he's doing now with the Dead,
It's incredible.
he really, really did his homework, and I've heard that from longtime Deadheads. Nobody has really, I won't say nobody, but let me see. To do it on that level, and to do it bringing the type of baggage he brings as pop blues star. You know, it's not like the Dead found some unknown person off the street who was like this gifted guitar wonder that they discovered, like the singer from Journey now, right? They
Right,
just
exactly.
found this guy.
On YouTube, right?
Yeah, there's a great documentary on Netflix or something about it, but they just found this guy, a complete unknown, whatever, popped him in, he's doing great. Like, that's one way to do it, but then that guy didn't have a bunch of this baggage of people. Like, nobody's showing up to a Journey gig wanting to hear that guy's solo stuff or whatever, you know what I mean? So with John doing the Dead thing, like, he's really, like, found his place.
It's
And
impressive.
it's it's really, really good. I'm not a fan of, it's a weird thing, I'm not a fan of the tempos they choose to take some of the songs. There's another band called Joe Russo's Almost Dead, and Joe Russo was the drummer in some of Phil Lesh and Bobby Weir's side projects, but they'll do like Dance Party Dead. They do rock and tempos, and it's kind of higher energy and kind of like what the Dead sounded like back in the day, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan. John Mayer, we did a rig. He's overdue for a rig rundown. I know he'll be watching this. He watches anything with his name on it on the internet. Not really, but yeah, we've reached out and talked to him about it, and it's just going to be it'll be a matter of time. It will happen someday, but
Sure.
like, you know, you gotta line up so many different things to get one of these. You know, once in a while it'll be as easy as, oh, let me text this person and we can line it up and boom, 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 and it's done. You know, other
Sure.
times it takes, like the U2 one took years, literally years, you know, before we were able to get that one
So
together.
I asked about John Mayer. I want to say that he said he's not a John Mayer hater. I feel like I've in the past bought into the John Mayer hating thing, but I'm not anymore because I hugely respect him as a guitar player, musician, and what he's done for the music community.
He's so funny too.
He's hilarious. I follow him on Instagram,
So funny.
and it's great. He doesn't really post as much as he used to. He used to post a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dude's awesome. And even though I don't like a lot of his pop music, it's not like I listen to it. I get it. I respect it. And it doesn't bother
There's
me.
some cool guitar parts on those pop tunes, like Neon.
Of course.
I mean,
it's
Neon's one of the
difficult,
hardest riffs
difficult.
ever.
And I've seen videos trying to dissect how to play it, you know, in the
I don't
right
think
way.
any of them are right, but
Yeah. That David, what's that one guy from Europe? David.
Paul Davids, I think.
Paul Davis.
Yep.
I mean, he's pretty good.
He's very good.
He's very
That's
good.
probably, I mean, him. Mary Spender's another one that I've seen. I think she does one where she tries to break that down, and
Name dropping YouTube people here. No big deal.
and it's not name dropping if you actually know them, I think.
I don't though.
Okay.
So I'm just
That's
kind
all right.
of this dude.
You feel like you know them though, because they're on YouTube all the time.
of course, yeah.
But yeah, that's one of that and Why Georgia. Maybe Why Georgia was the one she was trying to do. But anyways, she was. I feel like a YouTuber could make a pretty good thing just trying to dissect John Mayer riffs, But he's a real deal. I mean, he's one of the, maybe I'm trying to think what are the most recent biggest name guitar heroes come along. I think him and Derek Trucks are probably, and Joe Bonamassa
For that style of music.
or for any style. Like what guitar players come along in the last 20 years, let's say, who is going to be around just for a long, long time, whether you like the music or not.
So here's the thing. I feel like, and can I share with you my favorite guitar player and most inspirational?
Yes.
Mark Tremonti. And for me, I've seen Alter Bridge many times, did VIP, saw him, and met him and got pictures and stuff. The dude's awesome. And I made the worst joke ever when I shook his hand for the first time. I said, hoping for a transfer of power with this. And then I said, maybe we should do the fret hand instead. And
That's a good one. That's not so bad.
He laughed,
Yeah,
of course,
no,
a little bit. And,
I tell you what, if you got him to giggle a little bit,
yeah.
mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished, man.
I felt like a dork when I said it, but in the moment I was super nervous. I just had to
That's
go
good.
for it.
I might
right?
steal that.
Yeah.
I might steal that.
The transfer of power I asked for. And I'm like, oh, maybe it should be the left hand.
Because this is like in a meet and greet line, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he's doing this night after night after night.
He is, yep.
And everybody's just telling him how much they love Creed or whatever, which is fine. But something like that kind of breaks up the monotony, because 80% of the people in that line are going to say some version of the same thing.
Or not say anything at all.
Or not say anything at all, right?
Right, yeah.
And I think you did it right.
I felt like a dork. My friend who was with me, he laughed, as well.
And had your friend heard this line before?
Because he was right next to me.
But had he heard it before this time?
No,
okay.
It was totally spontaneous and me just like, okay, here he is.
It's
good. Mark.
That's
Holy
good.
shit. Because I've been a huge fan forever, and just, what I'll never forget, the most inspirational moment that I saw, not the most, but one of the most inspirational, when I saw Alter Bridge for the second time. I've seen like 4 times, I think, which isn't a ton, I get it, but when the Open Your Eyes solo hit, you know which song I'm talking about, and all of a sudden, literally, the whole crowd shifts. When you're at a concert and not everybody looks at the guitar player if there's a solo, because everybody just kind of enjoy it. Yeah. It's like you literally watch the whole crowd do this. And then there's like kids on dad's backs and things like that watching. It was the craziest. Like, I almost get emotional thinking about it, because that's how much, when you think about, I think we were just talking, it's like, who is that person for that genre? I feel like a lot of people look at him as a modern rock guitar god. Right?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be, like I said, he would be the one that I would say is going to be around, a long time. It seems to me his playing has longevity in the guitar community. That's probably going to be well past. Like I'd put him, John Mayer, Joe Bonamassa, Derek Trucks, depending on what kind of
the style of music, right?
What kind of style of music you like, those are the names that are just going to be around for years and years and years, but there's not many of them.
There really isn't.
And they're probably commercially none bigger than John Mayer.
Of course, commercially.
Commercially, nobody's bigger than that. But, because when people always ask me, like, where are the Claptons and Becks and Pages of the... It's like, there's... I don't know, but, because Clapton is my guy. Like, from day one, Clapton was, like, all of Clapton stuff. Like, my daughter's name is Layla,
Oh, that's cool.
So I take it serious.
Nice. So can I ask you a question, not to cut in front of you? For when it comes to Clapton and his whole life of different bands and, his solo work, and what is a top 5 Clapton list for you?
Like albums or songs?
Songs.
Layla, and in no particular order. I would say Layla, electric version. I would also put the acoustic version on there.
That whole album, by the way.
Yeah, that album's great. The Hey Baby Hey on that, the Big Bill Brunzi on that Unplugged album is really good. That was a lot of time, the first time people heard real deal acoustic blues was probably on that record. But I'd put the 2 Laylas on there. I would put, I'd probably put probably Sunshine on there, just for the solo alone. I wouldn't put Crossroads on there. Let's see, Sunshine, Layla's, that's 3. Is it Bad Love or Old Love, the slow one?
Link down below.
Had enough of Bad Love. No, Old Love. That's what it was.
If I heard it, I probably recognize
Old Love is the slow one. Bad Love was like the one off the Journeyman record. And then I would put, so that's 4. And then, a great unheralded tune off the Pilgrim album called She's Gone. Has an awesome guitar riff on it. Because the first time I saw him was on the Pilgrim tour. And it was at the Mark in Moline. And I thought that was going to be my only chance ever to see him. It wasn't. I saw him several times since then. But that, I mean, that was just, that's such a, I've always just loved that. I remember going by the tab book and trying to figure it out. And then I saw the tour with Doyle and him and Derek where they played most of the Layla record. And that was really cool. And then I went to the Crossroads Festival.
Nice.
In Chicago on that one. And that was working. That was a working trip.
He's got a tough job.
I got sunburn all over my face that day. But the real fun part of that weekend was the night before I went to Buddy Guy's for Jimmy Vaughn's CD release party. And there was this guy opening for Jimmy Vaughn named Gary Clark Jr. Nobody had ever heard of. He's another guy. He's going to be around for a long time. And then, like, the guys from Los Lobos were sitting in front of me, and then Jeff Beck walks into the room, and, like, the air changed in the room when Jeff Beck walked in.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was incredible.
So I'm trying to figure out, before we end this podcast, which of course has flown by.
Yeah, right?
Hopefully you've had fun so
Oh,
far.
yeah, of course, man.
Because there's a million questions after we're done.
Sure.
I'm gonna think about
rapid fire. Hit me with, like, isn't that the end? Don't you, like, do the rapid fire thing?
Now I'm on the spot and it's like
Yeah.
hard to think of things. So I'm trying to think of fun things to talk about or ask you quickly, like, what's a band you want to see?
A band I want to see that I haven't seen? Or that
Let's go with you haven't seen.
a band that I want to see that I haven't seen. That's a tough one because I've seen a lot of bands. I would like to see Dead and Company with John Mayer. Yeah.
With John Mayer.
I've seen John Mayer. I've seen Phil Lesh. Phil Lesh isn't in the band, but I've seen some various like fringe Dead related bands. But I would totally go see Dead and Company and twirl for hours.
Band you want to see that you've seen before, but you need to see him again before you're dead, or
before they're dead.
Before they're dead.
Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton.
I feel like I need to. I do feel like I need to see him one more time.
Okay, that's good. Band you want to see with your family?
I would like to have my daughter see Layla played live. See Eric Clapton play Layla live for her. Acoustic or electric, I'll take either one.
How amazing would that moment be?
That would be pretty cool because she knows when the riff comes on. She knows, like, oh, that's my song, But sentimental, and to give a different answer, other than Eric Clapton, I can never see Fish enough. So they'd probably be at the top of the list. Yeah.
Music aside, what's one thing you want to spend more time with?
Musically?
Aside from music.
Oh, aside from music.
Aside from music, what's one thing you want to do more with?
Be a better writer. Yeah, which usually involves reading more. The writers that I know and look up to, they're usually the ones that read the most. So if I can get the reading going, I'm hoping that would make me a better writer. Not just on music, but just on, like, my son wants to write. He's like, Dad, we should start a project together. I was like, oh, what did you have in mind? He goes, how about you and I write a script for The Office, the TV show?
Yeah.
I was like, you're a genius, kid.
British or US?
U.S. He doesn't even know if the British one exists yet. But I don't think he would get it quite. I don't think he's old enough to get it yet. But, like, he knows Dwight's funny.
The U.S. one is awesome.
It is, yeah.
Dwight Schrute.
And so there's this new podcast where Pam and Angela go episode by episode through and they tell you all
the actresses from
the real actors, right?
Oh yeah.
And so my son's Parker. Parker has been listening to that. So now we'll listen to one of the podcasts when I'm driving around, and then we'll go on Netflix and listen to, and then go on to Netflix and watch that corresponding episode. So yeah. So the long answer is, I really suck at rapid fire stuff, I guess. But the long answer is be a better writer as far as professionally. Yes.
Next piece of gear you absolutely need to have.
I probably would be looking at some kind of semi-hollow guitar. I'm good with amps, I'm good with pedals because that type of stuff, especially pedals, just flows in and out of my life so often. And with guitars, I think that's the one. I don't have like a real solid humbucker guitar that I'm able to use all the time. So I would say like maybe a 335 or like a Schofield Ibanez or even the new. I think we're gonna be getting one. Hopefully, the Paul Reed Smith hollow body SEs. I say if you point to one on that rack, then I'm gonna have to play it. But I know you don't have one because we don't have them yet. So.
I don't know, but of course I'm going to invite him to play any guitar of mine that he wants. He's not going to, but he's got a kick-ass guitar. I'm hoping he's going to play a little bit off camera after we're done with this.
Oh yeah.
And I had a question, then I lost it.
Sorry.
Must have gear on every pedal board. Give me one pedal. Must have.
The real answer is a tuner, but that's no fun. I would say a delay because delays can be so subtle or not subtle. And I think if you find like a good analog delay would be like if you've never messed with delay before, finding a good just 3-knob analog delay that makes weird noises when you play and turn the button, like that is really good. But if you have played with delay before, then going as far down that hole as possible. And if you've played with delay before, then delays in series, 2 delays that feed each other. That's more fun. That's probably an underrated combination, you know.
One thing guitar players should do to improve their playing.
Learn to read music. It's a tough answer, but you got to do it. There's so much music people are missing out on, because it doesn't end with tab. Like learning to read music is not that hard. You just got to do it and do it. It's because the thing it's just like it's like reading. Like learning your alphabet when we were kids was not an unattainable goal, and learning to form sentences was not an unattainable goal. It wasn't intimidating when we were kids in kindergarten or whatever. But in order to get better, you got to do it consistently. You got to read this and read this and read signs and read books and read things. You know, it's the same thing with. You don't have to be a killer reader, but if you read just a little bit, things will make sense. Whether it's theoretical things, I mean, the theaters would never hire me to do what I do if I couldn't read music well.
The man plays banjo too, by the way. We didn't even get into it.
Banjo?
You do.
Well, 6-string banjo.
6-string, yes.
Yeah. That's just. I mean, that's way less impressive to most other people than it sounds. It's a good. It's a banjo that's tuned like a guitar, so it sounds just like a banjo, but you play it just like a guitar.
I'm impressed. You
could play 6-string banjo if you had one. That's not. But like doing like mandolin and ukulele and that kind of stuff, that's more difficult because you're rethinking the fretboard in a different way than on that particular one. But yeah, learning to read music, you know. That was one thing, because when I started as a freshman music major, I couldn't read music, which I tell people that and they think I'm like, well, either crazy or lying, but it's true. And I mean, it's like basically like starting as a journalism major and not knowing how to write or read. I mean, it's kind of akin to that, but you just kind of chip away at it. And then, you know, by the time I was a junior in undergrad and even into grad school, people were calling me because, you know, out of the group of guitar players, I could read the best, you know, so I get calls for the pit gigs. And in college, you're like, hey, we'll pay you $500 to come and play. Yeah, I'll do it. Like when you're in college, that's like $1 million, you know, when you're doing that. So, but you're not even going to get those calls if you can't read. You can't. And it takes zero talent. It takes zero talent to learn how to read music. It's just, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to systematically work through it. And a year from now, I'll be a better reader. And a year after that, I'll be better than that, you know. And And there are some great players who can't read, but nobody's great because they can't read. They're great in spite of their reading. They were going to be great no matter what, whether they could read or not. So that's my soliloquy on reading music. Just do it.
Dream rig rundown you haven't done.
Clapton, but it'd be boring, and I'd know it because it'd be like, this is my guitar, that's my amp, this is a chord that goes between the two. I mean, that's what it is. But one that I would want to this one would be way more interesting. Trey from Fish. That would be like a rig that you could walk through, and he would have a lot of interesting things to say about all of it. Clapton probably wouldn't even do his own rig rundown. His tech would probably do it. But Trey, I could see doing his own, which is fine. Clapton has earned the right not to do his own rig rundown.
He's kind of a big deal. You may have heard of him.
Yeah. Jimmy Page would be cool. He doesn't play live, though. So, that's kind of a thing. We did shoot one with Jeff Beck that we had to take down. But
why did you have to take it down?
He asked us to.
Why?
So, I don't know.
We don't have to talk about it. Off camera. Maybe.
I mean, there's really not much of us, when a guy like that asks you to do it, you're just kind of like, well, okay. I mean, but we went through all the proper channels. And so, I mean, because some people always act like, I swear I saw a rig rundown with Jeff Beck, because he went into the tech went into a lot of detail about how he sets up his tremolo. And it was up. And then Jeff asked us to take it down. So we went by Mr. Beck's wishes. There was nothing nefarious or anything about that. He just asked us to take it down.
If he asks you, what are you going to tell him? No, it was Jeff Beck.
And we don't want to make him mad. We'd love to do it again, but
we don't want drama. You don't want drama spread by him or something, right?
Yeah. What's the point? It doesn't do anybody any good. I mean, we know we went through the proper channels, and who's going to get backstage at a Jeff Beck show and film for an hour by being under the radar? That just doesn't. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So.
Last and final question.
Yes.
Will you be on another podcast?
Yes, sure. Only if we can talk about guitar stuff. Thank you. Thanks for the whiskey.
Jason Shadrick was on tonight. I might record doing a little bit of him playing. Just throw it at the end of the podcast. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, man.
It was
Thanks
a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Went by quick.
It always does. It's already been a couple hours probably.
Yeah, and I got to go home.
I know. Well, stop at...
I got to stop up there. Right.
Exactly. So we'll see you next week, or yes, I think I have somebody coming on next week. But Jason Chadwick was on. I'm glad he stopped in, talked a lot about guitar stuff. Check all the links down below.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.
All right, cool. Peace, everyone. Bye-bye. Take it away, man.
I think I stepped on the cord and it came loose.
No, that's probably